Hey everybody, who has the best cordless impact driver? Well, we did this 6 years ago and we're doing it again because it's time. There's no doubt that impact drivers have completely changed the construction industry, both productivity and quality of work. Impact drivers allow us to install screws, structural fasteners, small bolts way more efficiently than we used to do it. And for you young guys, we used to do it with a drill. Impact drivers drastically reduce broken fasteners, stripped screw heads, and they're just faster to use. An impact driver pretty much relies on a hammer and anvil mechanism, and it deploys a rotational force when resistance in the fastener is encountered. In our head-to-head test, we looked at 19 full-size impact drivers from 15 different manufacturers. These impact drivers range from 18 to 40 volts. Now, traditionally, we would separate the tools by voltage ranges, and like, for example, would separate the 18 from the 24, 36, or 40 volts, do separate head-to-heads. And we know that many of you think voltage probably is better on an impact driver, but is it really? Well, we'll find out soon enough. And if you want more specs and details and information on these tools, please go to the Toolbox Buzz website. It has way more information than the video. Also, please just take one moment right now and go down and just click the subscribe button and the notification bell. We could use your support. Now, let's look at evaluation criteria. We focused on productivity and performance that relates to the pro user in the field. We did not consider runtime, and we feel that majority of the tool brands now are offering full-size impact drivers using good lithium-ion batteries and brushless motors. In most situations, these tools are going to run long enough for the average user to complete their work, his or her work. Furthermore, if you own 2 or more battery packs, it's extremely unlikely that you're going to drain one battery pack before you can pull a second one off a charger or charge it or whatever. So we looked at 7 different scoring criteria, and we designed 4 performance tests across a range of applications. 4 of these tests address driving speed, torque, and control. Additional scored categories included qualitative and quantitative evaluations. Lastly, we evaluate but did not rank price and best value categories. Okay, structural screw test. The winner of that was a Makita HPT 36 volt. We installed number 9 3 1/8" GRK structural screws into 4x6 PT lumber. This task is something that we feel that many of you guys do regularly, deck building, whatever. It highlights tasks that can be benefiting from improved speed and productivity. I will say that the GRK screws are an industry-leading fastener. We use them all the time, all in construction phases. The ones we use feature a corrosion resistance coating. It's approved for treated lumber, and we just felt it was a good choice, just because that's what we use. In this test, we pre-started all of the screws to the exact same height, installing 5 fasteners. Recording the time to install each fastener, average time was taken, and then we determined our rank. Did that test a few times. The same user conducted the test for each impact driver and did not apply any force or use a supporting hand to do that. Now, that Makita HPT 36 triple hammer was the winner of this test. It drove 5 screws with an average time of 0.68 seconds per screw. That's fast. Coming in a 3-way tie for second was Flex, Makita HPT, the 18DC, and Milwaukee at 0.73 seconds. Finishing at the back of the pack was the Fein with an average score of 1.49 seconds. Still pretty fast. The next structural test that we did was to remove human error. Now, for the last several years, Toolbox Buzz crew has tried to add at least one test to our head-to-heads that takes the human error out of the loop, right? While we pride ourselves in adding valuable subjective feedback in these tests to you guys, we feel it is important to have at least one performance data point across the tools without the influence of a user. We designed a rig to basically hold the tools and drive 5-inch long timber locks. Now, in an effort to kind of elevate this test to the next level, we added something new and unique to our test: obomodulin, or polyurethane boards. Now, obomodulin is a cast polyurethane board that is used for model construction, tool making, and mold production. We wanted to find a material that we could use to replace wood, but would still have wood-like features without the inconsistencies of, say, knots and gaps and variable densities. Now, these boards can be cut, they can be milled, they can be drilled, and even sanded like wood. For our test, we used Obermodulin 502, which has the density of 29 pounds per cubic feet, which is on the right, I guess I'd say it's right in the higher range of, say, white pine. To put the naysayers at ease, we conducted a series of tests driving fasteners, the 5-inch fasteners, into both KD wood and the structural foam. The time results were comparable between the two, with the interesting factor that the wood had inconsistent results and times due to knot splits and different densities. The foam was consistent and precise. The results were precise for each and every impact driver. All right, so the testing rig, like I said, it held the impact drivers, and that's to remove the human variations of pushing or whatever, and to allow the fairest test possible across the board. With impact drivers, the advancement of the tool is pretty much determined by the rotational speed of the fastener. We added a cable and pulley system to this rig to provide enough force to keep the bit and the impact securely in place as the fastener was driven, so it advanced into the material. The sled fixture held the impact driver securely and in the same plane as the fastener, while the aluminum tracks and wheels keep the driver moving in a consistent parallel fashion. All the impact drivers were set to their highest setting. During the course of the testing, the fixture operated with no issues. There was no problems. The rig used 2 strategically placed micro switches, and that was to ensure the start and stop times on the fastener. The micro switch timing would start as soon as the fastener inserted and initiated into the material, and would stop just as the fastener passed through it, or basically went just past flush. Removing human error of pretty much of the stopwatch, the handheld stopwatch. Individual tools had very consistent times during this run, which made us very happy to see. Now, the Timberlock performance test winner was Flex. The tools all completed this test with times ranging between 3 to 12 seconds. The field was very tight, with a top 12 impacts completing the tests within 3 to 5 seconds average time. The Flex scored first with an average time of 3.05 seconds. Coming in second place was the Milwaukee with 3.22 seconds, and then the Rigid with an average time of 3.66 seconds. Now, the driving torque test, I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit. The winner of that was Ryobi. We performed a driving torque test, and it's important to note that these tools are impact drivers, not impact wrenches. We know from experience that many users will push their impact driver to tighten or break fasteners, probably larger than the tool was designed for. So because of this, we felt it was valuable to provide you with some relative data on applied torque. We used a 1/2-inch steel plate with a 9/16 hole drilled in it. The impact drivers were all fitted with Milwaukee impact rated sockets and 3/8 impact rated adapters. We applied torque to a 1/2-inch grade 8 bolt, nut, and washer assembly. And this was after we would hand tighten it first. Impacts were all set to their highest speed or power setting available in torque, and we applied torque for 6 seconds, and then the impact driver was removed. We performed this test 5 times per tool, and the nut assembly would then be removed using a digital torque wrench meter. The meter allowed us basically to measure the peak torque required to break the nut. The winner of the test was the Ryobi, and it required an average breakaway torque of 1603 inch-pounds, 1603. Now, second went to the Dewalt with 1400 inch-pounds, followed by the Bosch, and that had 1322 inch-pounds. And I want to talk a little bit about voltage here. At the beginning of the video, I started mentioning to you the huge range of voltages from 18 to 40 volt, and our decision not to break them up. As you can see from the test, the performance test, the best average finishes were from some of the lower voltage impact drivers, the 18s. The sweet spot for impact drivers versus impact wrenches is for installing small to medium fastener diameter fasteners. These fasteners just don't require the torque that would benefit from a higher voltage tool platform. So when it comes to choosing an impact driver, voltage should not really be at the top of your consideration unless you're trying to maximize battery platform that you're on, and then go for it. I want to talk about that Bosch for a minute because that's a pretty cool tool. All the impacts except the Bosch required a 1/4-inch to 1/2-inch impact adapter, drive adapter, to attach to a 3/4 impact socket. The Bosch has a unique 2-in-1 feature, and it allows users to directly attach a 1/4-inch hex bit or 1/2-inch socket directly to the tool's drive head without the need for an adapter. Now, curious to see if the actual was torque loss using the impact adapter versus the Bosch, we tested both ways. The 1/2-inch direct drive resulted in a 15% increase in torque measured due to the reduction of torque loss through the required adapter. We used the higher value in our scoring matrix because we felt that was fair. Bosch had it, they deserved it. The next test that we did was the self-tapping screw test. Winner of that was the Makita 18-volt. The self-tapping screw test involved fastening 5 total 3/4-inch screws into 16-gauge galvanized steel sheet metal while measuring the total fastening time and evaluating strip out. The 16-gauge steel kind of served as a solid baseline for a heavy-duty structural assembly, maybe metal roofing application or something. It was also a nice opportunity to test out some of the application-based settings that some of these impact drivers have. So if the impact driver had a self-tapping mode, then we would set it to that for this test. Others featured a combination of, say, low, medium, high settings. In those cases, we would set the speed to a higher setting, and then we would back off the variable speed trigger to avoid the metal stripping out at the end of threading. The Makita 18-volt driver set the bar with a total of 22.3 seconds. That's fast. That's average speed. It was set to self-tapping mode and did an excellent job at ramping up in the initial drilling phase and then automatically slowing down when it sensed an increased resistance with the screw head contacting the material. This resulted in a max speed fastening with no instances of stripping the sheet metal or the screw. The settings were easy to change pretty much, and they're on the base of the tool. Now, we were also impressed with the soft, repeatable torque sensing ability of this driver. Now, the Bosch came in second, only 0.2 of a second slower than the Makita. It was also one of the favorites in this test. And Bosch has an absolutely standout web application that allows the user to totally customize the tool settings. For this test, we designated one of the modes as a self-tapper mode, and then we customized it to a medium sensitivity with a stop setting when the torque limit was reached. Similar to Makita, this resulted in a max setting kind of tapping and fastening and 0 material strip out. It also allowed a user to increase the torque sensor sensitivity to high for thinner metals if you want. It's a fantastic design, especially for sheet metal applications. In third place was the Ryobi, and that had an overall average time of 22.99 seconds. While it showcased impressive speed, it did not have the same feel or sensitivity as the Makita or Bosch drivers did. The Ryobi struggled with material stripping out on at least one of the fasteners and was really close on a second fastener. It also did not have a dedicated self-tapper mode. It has a total of 4-speed torque settings, which we put it at speed 3. We likely could have decreased the risk of strip out by putting it at setting A, which is their assist mode. But the times, when we did that, the times are almost double in the setting, and it would have hurt the Ryobi in this test. The Hilti, Milwaukee, and Dewalt all stood out in their combination of speed, touch, overall performance of self-tapping screw test. Nice tools. We moved on to ergonomics. Winner of that was Hilti. And next to performance and functionality, the way a tool feels in the hand is important purchasing consideration. Good ergonomic design helps reduce user fatigue and, in theory, should produce a better result. The old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, applies here. And for us, ergonomics is kind of a lot like that. It's your first impression when you start to use a tool and how it feels. Users can feel a tool that has great ergonomics way longer before you can actually articulate it. To us, that was the Hilti for us. For ergonomics, we looked closely at, say, the grip. We looked at grip comfort, ease of bit change, call it function, LED lighting, line of sight, and ease of battery change. The team gave great input and feedback for each of these impacts and declared the top 3 tools based on the overall combined score of each section. Now, as far as grip goes, the consensus of our group was, many of the impact drivers, they all have really nice, comfortable grips. Depending on the user's hand size, opinions are going to vary. And we recognize that this is also a subjective opinion. All of the impacts have some form of rubber overmold on the handles, but we felt the Makita 18-volt and 40-volt stood out. The team felt that both of the Makita impacts just were really comfortable grips. Cobalt, Fein, Dewalt, and Bosch all had well thought out placement of rubber and really felt nice and balanced and just felt good in the hands. Now, due to the closeness in the grips and the varying opinions of the team, we chose not to score them because we just couldn't do that. Now, we looked at bit change. Now, is bit change important to you? Maybe, maybe not. If you have a mindset like we do in our crew, efficiency is time. Time is money. 11 of the 19 impacts have a one-handed bit insertion, which earned them a seat at the top of the score. One-handed bit insertion means that all you have to do is take the bit and press it into a spring-loaded collet, and it automatically takes the bit, locks it in, holds it secure. 3 of the 11 stood out. Now the Dewalt, the Festool, and the Milwaukee rose to the top with the smoothest, least resistant collet, inserting and removing. The team did not like the fact that the rigid Ryobi and the Heart all kind of eject the bit from the collet when you release it. Now we recognize this is subjective, but our thought was that if an ejected bit is likely going to fall on the floor, you're going to get lost, or maybe off a ladder or staging when you're swapping bits. The other 8 remaining impacts all had two-handed operations. One hand to pull the collet back, the other hand to insert the bit and release the collet. So that scored lower. Now, LED lights. The impacts with the best LED light arrays were the Skill and the Hilti. Both of these impacts have a diffuser ring offering 360 lighting all the way around the head of the impact. Really cool detail. Hilti, that light was the brightest of the two. The second place for the LED light scoring was the Dewalt Metabo HPT 18DC, the 36 volt HPT, and Milwaukee. All of these impacts have 3 LED lights around the head. Nice lighting. Third tier was the Milwaukee 18 volt Makita 40 volt impacts with 2 lights located at, say, the 3 and the 9 o'clock position on the clock. And the Metabo, the DBD, HPT DBD 18 volt came in 4th with 1 single light at the bottom of the head at the 6 o'clock position. Bosch, Fein, Festool Flex, Heart, Cobalt, Metabo LT and LXT, Rigid and Ryobi placed 5th. And that was due to them having their LED in the base of the tool, resulting in the light shining up or at the tip. The team did not like this location due to its issues where, say, the light could be blocked by hands or hands wearing gloves or create kind of weird shadows. I do want to note, though, that the Metabo HPT impacts have a push button flashlight load that allows you to turn the light on and stay on. Nice feature. No more having to press the trigger to turn that LED light on. Okay, we went on to battery change and battery release button, the 2 of them. The ease of battery removal was evaluated, and the team really favored the 1-button removal and ranked those tools accordingly. The winner of this particular subcategory was the Hilti Impact Driver. Hilti has a spring-loaded assist. It's almost like an auto eject. It just clicks the battery out for you. Now, when the button is pressed, the battery just pushes it forward. I guess that's the best way to say it. The other single battery removal impacts have a push button battery, and they were the Bosch, Dewalt, Fein, Flex, Heart, Makita, and Skill. We like those as well. Not as nice as the Hilti. The Cobalt, the Milwaukee, and the Rigid have a 2-pinch style buttons on either side of the battery to release the tool battery. And unlike the other tools that have 2 buttons, these 3 were nicer with larger buttons and just way easier to manipulate, especially with gloves on. The Metabo impacts have a battery release button on the back of the tool, backside of the tool, and the team felt that this was not intuitive and difficult to use. In fact, it's awkward to operate as you have to push the button in while pulling the battery in the opposite direction. It's not a normal movement. And this is something I think that Metabo really should try to update for next generations. Okay, so like I said, best ergonomics, it went to Hilti. It just took all those subcategories. It stood alone with a combined score of 4. It scored top marks in LED lighting, battery change, and landed 2nd tier for the fastener changing, to call it. A tie for 2nd place was the Dewalt and the Skill with 5 points in all 3 categories. 3rd place was the Milwaukee with 6 points. 1 for bit change, it came in 1st in bit change, 2 for the LED lighting, and 3 for the battery change. The 2 impacts that received 5s in all 3 categories was the Metabo LX and LTX. The crew believes that the Metabo needs to really improve that battery release mechanism. It's really going to hold it back. Okay, we look at features, and all the impact drivers pretty much have standard features common to impact drivers today, right? So consisting of, say, multiple drive modes, LED lights, spring-loaded collets, belt clips, battery gauges. Approximately 60% of them have specialty drive modes. Now, let's talk about driver settings. The Makita, for example. Both Makitas have multiple specialty drive modes, and that's going to allow you to dial in speed, tightening modes, assist modes, auto stop modes for different fasteners and materials. Really nice. While we were impressed with this, the consensus was that unless you have a specialty trade, you're a specialty trade contractor, these modes will probably go unused. It's too many. It's confusing. USB battery charging. The Skill has a built-in USB port in the battery for easy charging, say your phone or something, your AirPods. Most batteries have adapters that will slide over the battery, enable you to charge something, but the Skill has it right on the battery. And this is intuitive, innovative, and we just really liked it. We looked at Bluetooth app because Bosch has it, nobody else does. Bluetooth functionality is becoming more and more common. Manufacturers are adding them to all their tools. Bosch was the only tool to have this feature. Now, the Bosch app is called they call it the Bosch Toolbox. It's a smartphone app, and it connects to Bluetooth module roughly the size of a quarter in the grip of the driver. Once paired, the user can customize 2 assigned slots with pre-filled smart modes for, say, self-tapping screws or wood screws or bolts. The 3 speed levels of the other tool side selectable buttons can also be changed. The Bosch Toolbox app has other things like, there's some great features like a photo dimensions tool that uses your phone camera to grab rough dimensions and draft layouts. Really cool. The Bosch Toolbox app, coupled with the unique 2-in-1 driver wrench feature, elevated the Bosch to a true standout in feature category. We looked at best size and weight. The winner of that was the Dewalt. It's noticeably smaller. Size matters to users, guys, and in this case, they want smaller, compact impact drivers that still have the power for the applications that they need to deploy them on. Compact also means that the tool can be used in more situations. Now think of tight spot applications, like sistering a floor joist with 5 or 6 inch fasteners in between joist bays. We felt that the 2 most important factors for an impact driver in this category was weight and head length. Having a tool when working over a lighter tool working overhead coupled with a compact head size, fit in small openings, it's a huge win. To determine final ranking, size and weight, each driver was weighed without the battery and the head length was measured from the bit holder, call it, to the back. Each of the tool values were ranked separately and then combined into a single factor to determine our winner. The Dewalt was the most compact impact driver of the bunch. It features a 3.9 inch head and weighs 2.1 pounds and is a ½ inch smaller than the second place winner, the HPT Metabo 18DC, which measures 4.51 inches and measures 2 pounds. Third place was Milwaukee, measures 4.48 inches and weighs 2.2 pounds. Interesting fact here, guys, is that all the tools, they weigh between 2 and 3.3 pounds. They're not heavy. We moved on to best price, and the winner of that was Skill. Look, price is undoubtedly a very important consideration when buying tools, especially for those of you who are just starting out in the trades or maybe DIYers. We certainly can agree that most of the pro users or contractors, they have a strong brand loyalty and are just going to stay with their brand. Even if there's a better tool or another tool wins this head-to-head, they're going to keep the same battery platform, then venture out and do something new, have multiple brands. We did not include price in this scoring criteria of ours and rank it because we just think it wasn't fair with DIY tools and pro tools, but we include it for your informational purposes. The best price was Skill, like I said, it was $69.99 bare tool at the time of video. Second lowest price was Hart at $78, and believe it or not, the Bosch at $99 bare tool. The team all agrees that Skill and Hart impact drivers fall into a DIY category, but not Bosch, that's a pro tool. The most expensive impact driver tested was Fein, $308, and the Makita 40 volt, 217, and the Festool 219 bare tools. The majority of these impact drivers, they're all available online at Acme Tools, and we added purchase links in the video description below, as well as in the toolboxbuzz.com article. Now, the Cobalt impact driver was the only tool not sold as a bare tool. They do this at Lowe's. The Cobalt comes in at $149. It includes an impact driver, 4 amp hour battery charger, and a carry bag. Okay, who has the best cordless impact driver? The winner was Milwaukee. At the end of the day, our goal is to determine which impact driver was best overall. The decision was not based on conjecture, but real-world quantified testing and data. So after several months of completing all of our tests and analyzing our results, the impact driver that hovered at the top of all of our tests was the Milwaukee. The Milwaukee scored second in 2 of our performance tests, the structural one and the deck screws. It came in 3rd for size and weight, compactness, 4th in both ergonomics and self-tapping screw test. It's a powerful, compact, well-designed, and robustly built impact driver, and pro-rated. It's interesting to note that the Milwaukee Impact that we tested is now a Gen 4 driver, a Generation 4. Now that means that since 2012, when they first came out with it, they've updated it 4 times. Some folks don't like this. I do. Milwaukee has proven that they are dedicated to solving user challenges, improving its tool regularly. Clearly, this trade-focused approach is based on service history and end-user feedback research to update the tool. The team was impressed with its performance overall. Second place went to the Dewalt. It scored 1st in size and weight compactness, 2nd in both the torque test and ergonomics. 3rd place went to Flex, which scored 2nd in the 5-inch timber lock test with our testing sled, and 2nd place in the deck screw performance test. We also looked at best value impact driver, and the winner of that was the Skill. This category resonates with folks because it highlights a tool that performs well while still being cost effective. DIYers like this, people just starting out the trades. As we mentioned earlier, we did not score price. However, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. Best value tool. Who doesn't like a deal, right? When considering the 7 scoreable criteria or categories, and then you look at bare tool price, it's hard not to look at skill. It sells for the lowest price. It scored 2nd in ergonomics and features. It scored 3rd in the applied torque testing for an overall score of 6th place in that test. And it tied overall best value, best impact driver. It tied with the Makita 40 volt in 4th place. Now, the Skill is a DIY tool. The 40 volt is not. I want to talk a little bit about some final thoughts on this. This was a really fun evaluation because the field was really closely matched. The tools competed for razor thin margins. And for many users, the decision on what impact you're going to go with will be your battery platform. The bottom line here is almost all of these impact drivers are very capable of performing any task, any fastening task for small and medium-sized fasteners. In one of the categories, if one of the categories is not important to you that we ranked, just check out the data for yourself and make your own decisions. The often asked question, though, that we don't usually address, or we don't address, is long-term durability. Now, we talk about durability and longevity. Impact drivers experience significant wear and tear over time. As a result, you should really invest. If you're a pro user, you should invest in a cordless impact driver that is long-lasting and dependable. Now, many pro users, they're not interested in faster driving capabilities, but they want a tool that can maintain a consistent driving speed and last a long time. The entire Toolbox Buzz team, there's 12 of us, own and use 5 different impact drivers, brands amongst us, daily on the job site for that reason. The best way for a long-term durability and reliability is to invest in a pro-grade tool brand, one that has a reputation for being pro-grade. In contrast, we've experienced many of the non-pro tools and some of the newer tool brands that have come out to burn out after 6 months. So buyer beware. There are several pro-grade impact drivers in this test that we did. I'm going to use Festool as an example. In their research and testing, Festool found that most frequent failure point on impact drivers was the anvil mechanism. So they adjusted the shape and material hardness of their anvil to increase the lifespan of the tool. DIY tools don't do that. They also decreased the internal strike speed, the beats per minute, so that it was less likely to break. And they incorporated a longer trigger pull to allow kind of a finer control of variable speed trigger, making it easier, say, for contractors to control the speed with hardware attachments and small screws and stuff like that. So the moral of the story here is pro-grade tools are designed to last longer for us pros. A tool is an investment that's needed for our livelihood, so invest wisely. I want to talk quickly about our sponsor, Acme Tools. They serve the contractor, the woodwork, and the DIYer with a huge range of tools and equipment from all major manufacturers. Check out their website, they're great. Whether you shop on the phone, store, smartphone, or your computer, Acme Tools will save you time and money by serving as a one-stop source for stuff. It's a great resource, and their prices are phenomenal. Lastly, the crew at Toolbox Buzz, they produce several of these head-to-heads a year. We welcome you to swing over to our website, check out our head-to-head page, check them out, or search this video channel here and watch some of our other head-to-heads. I promise you will not be disappointed. Guys, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing and click that notification bell right there. We need your support and we appreciate it. See you at the next head-to-head.